Hi, this is Keith Davidson with Albertson and Davidson, and in this video I want to talk about the costs of a trust or will contest. The question we're asked quite often is, should I bring my will or trust contest if the estate isn't worth very much money? And unfortunately, if you're going to take on the burden of trying to contest a trust or a will, that burden does come with a significant cost. But of course, there's also the principle involved. And so a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not fighting this trust or will just for the money or at all for the money. I'm fighting it for the principle because I know that my mother and father would not have disinherited me if they had been in the right mind or if they had not been under the undue influence of a bad actor. And I can definitely empathize with that principle because that happens all too often. But if you're going to stand up and make sure that that principle is enforced in your parents' estate, then you're going to have to take on the burden of that fight too. And keep in mind that a trust or will contest can cost anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars because there's so much you have to go through in court to successfully contest a will or a trust. For example, every trust or will contest, you have to hire an expert, a medical doctor usually, to testify either to capacity or to the susceptibility of undue influence. Experts are expensive. A single expert in just one case can cost $20,000 to $30,000 or more, depending on how much that expert is used. And that doesn't take into account the attorney's fees, the deposition cost, and all the other subpoena costs that go along with litigation. And so some litigations might come in on the quote-unquote cheap side of $25,000 to $35,000, whereas others can go to $75,000 or $85,000, and others can be $250,000. It all depends on what you're up against in your estate fight. But in any event, it's not a small amount of money that you're going to have to pay to fund these fights. So the question becomes, how much is this principle worth to you, and what are your resources to be able to enforce that principle? Now, the other alternative, if you can't pay for your litigation, is to hire a lawyer, such as our firm, on a contingency basis. And we do quite a bit of contingency work as well. But even a contingency arrangement where you give the attorneys a percentage of what's recovered and you don't have to pay if there's no recovery, can still be expensive at the end of the day if the lawyers are successful in recovering money for you. It has the benefit, of course, of you not having to pay any of the costs out of your own pocket, but if there is a recovery, then the fee can be, again, quite substantial. So at the end of the day, it's a personal decision. You have to decide for yourself, is this fight worth the burden and the cost that you're going to take on that fight, or is it not? And only you can answer that question. So that's some information on some of the financial aspects of a trust or will contest.